All right, guys. Welcome once again to the weekly MacForum video chat. We had a little difficulty last night, if you recall. It took a little bit to get it started, but we're back, and I hope that you enjoy being here tonight. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pass along an invite. I think Rad Dave is going to join us. I'm hoping so. I'm going to pass that along here now. Let's see. There we go. David. There you go, Dave. It's on its way to you. Hopefully you'll be able to make it in this evening. We had a little bit of technical difficulties last night. Had a couple of interruptions. Things got off to a rocky start, but we're back for the Monday edition of the MacForum video chat. I'm going to get my show notes up here. I was just looking at the membership totals right before the show. We seem to, if I did the math, have picked up 111 new members since last night at showtime. That brings our total up to around 303,946. The newest member is Tony Karen. So welcome aboard to our new member. All of our members, I know one or two of our newer members were online earlier when I checked the membership stats, so welcome aboard. Hope you're finding your time here helpful. Remember, if you've been lurking the forum or you stumbled on this video chat recently, you can check the forum for information. You can look through the threads and everything, poke around, lurk around a little bit. But in order to ask a question, you have to be a member. And membership doesn't cost you anything, though. The good thing about that is it doesn't cost you anything to become a member. So feel free to join and ask your question. Occasionally, someone will send a question in by the Contact Us thread. That's not the greatest way to go because that thread's only seen by a handful of the moderators and admins on the board. So go ahead and join and ask your question. I'm sure you'll find a lot of helpful people who are have a wealth of Mac-related information. Rad Dave's one of our regular posters. I hope he can make it tonight. He hasn't been able to make it the last several shows. He's been enjoying retirement. But let's get right on into today's information. Most of this is some things that I had planned to talk about last night. So should still be relevant. Added one or two little tidbits here and there. First of all, iOS Beta 2 has been seeded out to developers. The gang over at, I believe I saw that on Cult of Mac, excuse me. And not a lot of changes from their description, not a lot of changes from the first seed. But hopefully that puts us one step closer to the new edition of iOS. When I looked at the keynote, there were some changes. Some of them are going to be a little more significant for some folks than others. One of the things that I think I'm going to enjoy, because it's an app that I use fairly regularly, is Notes is going to have a little more flexibility in terms of formatting notes. Not something I thought I would use a whole lot, but there are times when I wish I had a little more formatting flexibility. Another thing is that Notes, one of the things that I really like, and looks like Dave's here. How's it going, Dave?
Hi, Sly.
Hey, how are you? Let me get my headset on here so I can hear you. You made it.
Yeah.
Glad to have you here. I I was starting to think maybe somebody was trying to give me a message or something. You know, the last several weeks I've kind of been on my own here. You know.
Yeah.
How's it going?
We're doing fine, enjoying
Good.
this hot weather up here. Sure, it's been hot where you are.
Yeah, we had been really lucky for a couple weeks there. It had been a little bit below normal, but it's making up for it now. And I figure from now until about late September, early October, we're going to get some pretty good heat pretty regularly. You know.
Yeah, we just came back from the mountains of North Georgia, hoping to escape this weather, and it was in the 90s there.
Oh wow! Yeah, unfortunately that's the one thing about the entirety of the South this time of year.
Yeah.
Unless you're right along the coast, you know, you just, and even then, sometimes it gets absolutely horrible.
Yeah, it's and we're going to Asheville next month and for our anniversary.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And I hope it's cooler there. But
how many years there, Dave?
It will be July 12th. Will be 45 years.
All right. Good for you. And you even remember the date. I'm impressed. Hey, there you go.
I have to remember 2 dates: her birthday and our anniversary.
Okay.
I know my birthday and I know my son's birthday. Other than those 4 dates, don't ask.
There you go. That's what iCal is for, right? At one time, I had gotten, when I was writing for about this particular Mac, I had gotten a note from a user. He wanted to know if there was a way to be able to send, I had written about using Automator. He wanted to know if there's a way to send a birthday greeting to somebody, you know?
Yeah.
So I puttered around with that Automator for a day or two. And within the first day, I had what he wanted to do. It was a calendar alarm that triggered every day, looked at your address book, and if somebody had a birthday that day, it would send off this little email that you had pre-composed. You know, the body of it was pre-composed, and it would get the email address, fill it in, and send it off. Well, I kind of went a little overboard. Because my next thing was, well, now what if I don't have somebody's email and I want to send them a regular, you know, snail mail type of card? I'm going to need at least a week's notice. 2 weeks would be a little bit better, so I did 2 weeks. And I had that working. But it took a separate little Automator thing to do. And then my brain said, you know, if you're going to plan a party, you need a little more than 2 weeks notice sometimes. So I had one that ran a month ahead of time, one that ran 2 weeks, and one that ran, you know, like a week. And he sent me an email, and I sent him back the thing that I had written, and I said, test this and see if it works. And he sent me back an email, says, this works. And I said, well, it's almost ready. I need to fix this. And I described to him, you know, what I was doing, because I wanted to make a little Apple script that would trigger the whole thing, kind of control it, you know?
Okay, yeah.
And he wrote back with, you don't understand. All I wanted to do is check the email every day and, you know, check the address book every day and see if somebody has a birthday so I can send them an email. And I'm like, well, gee, I had that figured out the first day, you know? Unfortunately, it seems like the address book action, you know, Automators dependent upon actions for different programs. If you, you know, well, it seems like somewhere in any one of the last several updates between about 10.5 and now, the way one specific address book action functions has changed. And so it doesn't work anymore the way it used to. and I'm not a good enough Apple scripter to write an Apple script that would take the place of that particular action. You could.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just not, that's just not where that one remaining brain cell I've got up there is not geared up for that, you know?
I've only read about it. I haven't given it much try. It seems like it would be fun to do, but if I were 30 years old again, I'd probably try it.
Oh, I'm sure you could do it. You could handle that, Dave. I've seen some of the stuff that you posted on. You could,
I'm 40 years beyond that age.
Oh, well, hey, that's all right. You know, I was reading not too long ago about a lady who was about 10 or 15 years older than you are, who had graduated from college. So, you know, hey, if she can do that, I think you can.
Well, there was a lady who I think she was like 90, who just completed a regular marathon.
Oh, wow.
It took her a long time, but it was in USA Today and in the local papers on the news. But
hey,
a marathon is like what, 27 miles?
Almost 27 miles, yeah.
She completed that.
Oh, man. I can't. I'm not even thinking about it. Are you kidding me? I would pass out in the first half mile.
I get on my treadmill and do 2.5 or 3 miles at about 3.5 miles an hour. And
okay.
That's enough.
There you go. I gotta tell you, when I was in grad school, a friend of mine, they had formed a little rec league wheelchair basketball team. You know, one of my friends said to me, he says, "Slice, why don't you come out play ball with us?" You know, and I said, "Okay, I need a little exercise." You know, I came out and said, "I said, when's the next practice?" Thursday night. So I said, "Okay, come out Thursday night." And I've got one of those chairs. At the time, I had one of those chairs. I call them the tank, Dave. They're the kind of chairs you get at the hospital. You know, they weigh like 40 pounds.
Big ones.
You know that, yeah. And so I hike over to the gym where we're going to be playing, and we get in the gym, and somebody's using half of the basketball court. So we're having to play half court, and the guy who invited me is like 90 pounds dripping wet. And he's fast. I mean, he's fast enough that he, a couple of years ago, competed in the Paralympics in Barcelona. And, you know, we're playing ball, and I never was a real good ball player, but I'm kind of halfway keeping up reasonably well. And I look up all of a sudden, and the guys who were on the far end of the court have left. And all of a sudden, my buddy screams out, "Hey, they're gone. Let's play full court." And he took off like somebody shot him out of a cannon. And I'm trying to keep up with these guys, you know, all of whom are either my age or younger. And they're all in better shape than I am, right? And they've all got these lightweight titanium chairs that, you know, weigh like nothing. About the third time down the court, I felt like I was going to lose a lung there, Dave. I'm standing on the sideline. Time out. Time out.
Well, yeah, you have two at least.
I decided right then and there my basketball career was just not going to be that good, you know?
Yeah, those guys can be pretty amazing. Over the last few years, I've been replacing a lot of my DVDs with Blu-rays.
Okay, yeah.
And about a month ago, I replaced Coming Home with Jon Voight.
Okay, yeah, I remember that movie.
Fonda, remember that movie?
Right.
I think it won the Oscar for Best Movie, but you know, he was a paraplegic, but there was a scene in there, and they must have used some of these professional paraplegic athletes on the basketball court, and it was amazing how they could twirl these wheelchairs and put in the baskets, and so it was impressive. I hadn't watched that movie since it had come out, and then since I got the DVD years ago. But
shows you how far behind the times I am. we waited a couple of years to get a DVD player.
Okay.
And then we had a couple of them that just, you know, failed in no time. One of them was my fault. The other one, I don't know what happened. And then everybody started switching. And for a while there was the argument of, for high definition, was it going to be Blu-ray? Or was it going to be, what was that other, HD standard or
yeah, it was
whatever it was?
Yeah, it was another HD standard. Yeah.
So we waited a little while, you know, because I figured with my luck, I was going to kill whatever format I bought, right? It's like VHS and Betamax all over again. So we waited a little while.
I remember those days.
And then I finally picked up a Blu-ray player. And the first one I picked up was just it was a refurbished unit. I got it cheap from one of the online stores. And the thing was just junk, not good. So after that, we picked up a couple of Blu-ray discs. We have a handful of them now. But it's funny because just about the time we started going to Blu-ray, the whole world started saying, well, wait, we're not going to do Blu-ray. We're going to all stream our content from the cloud. And I'm like, okay.
Of course.
You know?
Anybody that's young now, I mean, if you tell them you're buying optical discs,
yeah, they look at you like, oh, are you nuts?
All you do is, Jesus, just stream your music.
Well, I can tell you one of the things that makes me keep some of the things around, or at the very least to have them on the hard drive and have a copy of them. You know, some of our European and Aussie members are having to deal with bandwidth caps on their connections. And although our provider has not really started instituting a cap, they have a, how do I put this? They have what I call a theoretical cap in place. That right now the cap is rather generous. As long as you stay under a certain amount, you're okay. But then and it's a reasonable amount of stuff. But if you stream Netflix constantly, like some of my friends do, and you know, you stream, you know, other YouTube videos 24/7, you probably would run into some issues with your usage and having to pay way more, you know. I haven't even looked at what the actual cost is if you go over the bandwidth. I mean, we've been lucky; we haven't come close to that yet. So,
yeah, I usually stream with Amazon or Netflix.
Right.
We do have Netflix and Amazon, and
using the Amazon Prime, Amazon Instant Video.
Yeah. With Amazon Prime and
right.
all that. And that usually works. You know, my Time Warner connection is about only 20 megabits a second. So so I usually pick the standard definition choices. They're $1 or $2 cheaper.
Right.
And although I have a high definition TV for my Blu-ray, you know, I'd rather trust the standard definition on this. I can't get Time Warner to get any faster. It can be a pain in the ass, and sometimes it will conk out right in the middle of a great scene. But
ours just recently, our provider just recently went from 15 to 50.
Oh. Okay.
If you had purchased a certain level of service, you know, they bumped up from 15 to 50, and so when they offered me that, I certainly didn't turn them down, you know. And even at 15, we were doing okay because we've done a little bit of streaming with Amazon, and the only complaint that I have with it is that there is no Amazon app for the Apple TV. You know, that's really the only kind of complaint that I have with it.
Okay.
What you end up doing if you have an Apple TV is jumping through a hoop where, and I think this still works. I haven't done it in several months. If you've got the Amazon app on, say, your iPad, okay, then you can use AirPlay to bounce it over to your TV.
Yeah.
And if you've got a decent network, it seems to work okay without, you know, buffering a lot or anything like that. It seems, but it's just, and you know, a lot of times I've seen on the Amazon discussion board, somebody will ask, well, why doesn't Apple build an Amazon Prime app? Well, first of all, Apple wouldn't be the one to build it. You got to talk to Amazon about that.
Uh-huh.
And really, there's very little incentive for Amazon to build it because they have their own, you know, streaming device now with between the tablets and they've got another Amazon TV option. So there's very little incentive for them to build an app that works with the Apple TV. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have a Roku device, so I do Amazon via the Roku.
Via the Roku, yeah.
Which works. Although I've bought a ton of music from Amazon over the years, and you know, that's all online.
Right.
And I have the Amazon app on my iPad, so, and I have a sound bar for my high definition TV, which is Bluetooth.
Right.
So I can go on my iPad, go to Amazon, and play all the hundreds and hundreds of CDs
right.
I've bought from Amazon over my sound bar.
Right. Boy, that's
going to my back room and trying to find the damn CD.
Yeah, that's a neat arrangement. We took a lot of our CDs and put them in an iTunes library.
Yeah.
And just recently here, I bought. You might have seen a thread that I started a couple of weeks ago about using a smartphone or iPad for a remote control device.
Yes.
And Life's a Beach and I got going on that one. And I was going to wait a few weeks and you know, see what else came up, but the little gremlin inside my brain said, you know, it said, you got to do this while you got time to mess with it. And I picked up the Blue Moon device,
okay.
Which is essentially, it's a little gadget that plugs into your stereo. And what it does, it basically does two things. You set it up as a remote control, and it'll handle multiple devices, and it'll also let you build up macros. So you can turn on with one button, you can turn on several things, turn off several things. And then the other thing it does, and since we have the Apple TV, we don't really need this function, but it seems to work reasonably well, is you can use it as a streaming device. So if you've got your music on, say, your iPad, when your iPad links up with this thing, then it'll stream to whatever stereo or whatever speaker it's attached to.
Okay.
So so I'm thinking I've been promising to do some writing for the blog and I've been busy and doing some other things, but I think I'm going to write up a review of that because I know there are a lot of people now getting interested in using their phones, which, you know, everybody has their phone with them 24/7 now almost.
Yeah.
As a remote control device. I've tried it on my iPad, and I'm gonna I think you can easily download the layout over to your phone, and I'm gonna try it on the phone and see how much I like it. But it's working actually reasonably well so far.
Yeah, there are just so many options. Yeah, I've got a Roku app on my iPad that makes it a lot easier than using the Roku controller.
Right.
Where you have to go through that damn alphabet numerical.
Yeah.
At least on the iPad, if I use the Roku Roku thing, I can just
use a keyboard
quickly, and
yeah.
So it's a little bit better.
Will it let you use your the keyboard on your iPad to do a quick search?
Yeah, I'm trying to think because I haven't. You know what? When I go to Roku on the Amazon, I never think of the iPad. It's sitting right next to me, and I'm punching damn buttons on the Roku controller, going through the alphabet, and so I haven't used it that much to even say.
One of the things that I might experiment with a little bit. Haven't done it yet. We just rearranged some things, and now my computer is in the living room, right near the Apple TV. And I've got one of the Logitech keyboards that can pair with 3 different devices. And so I'm probably going to pair the keyboard with the Apple TV and see how I like typing in, search phrases, because the search function on the Apple TV, when you go to type a letter, is similar to what a lot of cable boxes use. You have to use the remote to maneuver around, and you get to the A and you punch OK, and then you move over and you got to move to C, and it takes forever. Well, if an Apple TV has the capability of pairing with a keyboard, and I think that search function would just let me type something, which would be faster than all this maneuvering around with the remote control.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking through my notes to see what other kind of interesting stuff I have here. I was over at Cult of Mac, which I've been looking at the last couple of days, and I see that there's a rumor out now. Buster Hain was talking about this. It says, let's see, that Apple is probably going to add Force Touch to the next iPhone. I've seen that rumor in a couple of places now. Buster was the first place I've seen it. It makes sense because the watch already has it, doesn't it? I know the newest MacBook has, and I think the watch has Force Touch as well. And so now one of the rumors is that it's going to be added to the next version of the iPhone. So there you go, Dave. You gotta update the technology, and
Well, I just bought her that iPhone 6, and she's loving it. So I'm not going to tell her about that because she doesn't need any of this stuff. She just came out of the hallway and she's listening.
Oh,
now you've done me in. She's standing next to me with her hand to her ear. Hey, can I get a better iPhone?
Hey, now, Dave, see, you guys have reversed this. It's supposed to be the guy that does that, right? But
well, I still have my stupid phone. She's the one with the iPhone, and she loves it.
I have to tell you, most of the people that I know that have swapped their not so smartphones for iPhones really like them. The biggest hurdle that I've run into, I know someone that bought an iPhone. I think at the time, I think the 3 or 4 might have been current. And I wasn't doing a lot of streaming because we had like the lowest level plan that you could have, And I talked to her one day, and she said, I said, "Where's the iPhone?" She pulls out her old phone. "Where's the iPhone?" And she said, "Oh, I had to put it down for a while." Well, she had streamed so much stuff that she kind of lost track of how much data she had burned through. So, and this is in the days before, now Verizon, Sprint, most of the major carriers have these like 10 gigabyte plans,
Okay.
And this was before that, of course. So when you went over whatever your data plan was, you really paid through the teeth, and so that convinced me to kind of keep an eye out for how much I was, and of course we never, they made a lot of money off of us because we never went through that much data.
Your wife was afraid to use it.
Even though we had the there was a data plan there that was like half a gig, at that time, and I think that's what we had. And we rarely went through it. Now we're probably using a little bit more now that we have the newer phone and you can do more with them. But for us, a lot of the things that are data intensive, we do at home, unless we're traveling somewhere.
Yeah.
So in that case, it links up with our wireless network, and we're not burning cellular data.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the stuff that they were showing in the beta 2 for the iPhone for iOS 9, most of what they were showing in the beta was just some kind of refinements of the initial beta. I'll put the links up to all of this stuff sometime later this evening.
Okay.
The one that I found amazing is that Disney is now banning selfie sticks at their parks. Now, it's not. They had already put a ban on some of their rides, but now they're pretty much banning them pretty much throughout the park for safety reasons. With people poking each other with these stupid selfie sticks, and it doesn't amaze me that they had to post a ban. What's amazing to me to some extent is that you have to tell people that it's not safe to stick these selfie sticks out of a moving ride. As you can tell, I'm a big selfie user right now. I'm not even close.
Yeah.
But I get why people take selfies. But there are some limits to what you should be trying to do while you're taking a selfie.
Yeah, there was a number of months ago, there was some girl, she must have been 20, that did a selfie in her car while driving, sent it to her friends, and then within a minute or so, she was in a fatal accident.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not paying attention to the
well, she was
road
in
there?
her car driving, doing a selfie and sending it. The same old issue of texting while you're driving. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think you should do any of that stuff as you're driving. It's dangerous to drive.
Well, more and more states are putting in place not only restrictions on texting, but the restrictions are getting tighter and tighter because
yeah,
there are I think there have been a few studies that basically say even having a phone conversation can be very distracting. If you're driving along, and I can see that.
Even if it's hands off and you've got Bluetooth in your car, the fact that you're talking to somebody and probably looking away from the road as if that person is sitting there, I mean, and it's just a split second if you're going 80 miles an hour down a highway that you're done for.
Right. At one time, I had done the calculations for a physics class. It was, if you were traveling down a road at 60 miles an hour, how much space would you cover in 1 second?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I forget how far it is. It's like 60-something feet, I think, or something like that. But the problem is, particularly when you're talking about either oncoming traffic, they're closing at you at a certain speed too.
Yeah.
So, that 60 or 70, 80 feet, whatever it was, that's just the distance that you're closing on them. At the same time, they're closing toward you. So assuming they're doing the same speed, your closing distance is almost the equivalent. Your reaction time needs to be about as fast as what it would be for about 100 mile an hour, thing. And that's not a lot of time.
No. I agree.
Now, I did see, I've had a iPhone, since the iPhone 3 days. And Saturday evening or Sunday, as I was looking around for things to include to talk about last night, I saw this. Now, I had not tried this because I don't play music on my phone a lot, but it's an interesting idea. And you could easily do it now in much better ways than I could. When I was in grad school, I had a habit, because sometimes I had trouble going to sleep at night. I had one of these little cheap timers that you could get at Radio Shack, plugged into my stereo was plugged into that timer. And when it got past a certain time, the stereo would shut off so it wouldn't be running all night. And then had the same thing the next morning. It would go off, and try to blast me awake, because for some god-awful reason I have trouble getting out of bed in the morning. And this is a
that's abnormal. Wanting to get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, especially at the time. Especially I was, especially in winter in West Texas, because it was so cold in that particular dorm that your body just goes, oh no, we're not getting no, we just got warm, we're not getting out, okay? But this is something that I had not thought of doing with the iPhone. Assuming that someone does like you do and load your iPad or your phone with music, one of the things that some people are doing is they're using the iPad kind of like a sleep timer, so that it will shut off and stop playing music when a certain amount of time elapses. Okay?
I do that now. I did this on our trip to Georgia. I've got over 100 hours on my iPad Air, and I have timers on it, so I play my music, and then I set the timer to go off after 2 hours, and then to wake me up the next morning. So
okay, why don't you explain to everybody how you set up the timer? I think everybody knows the alarm, how to set the alarm. How did you go about setting up the timer? Because I got to admit, I did not think of doing this. This is one of those Homer Simpson don't moments. As soon as I read this came from Rob Lefevre over at Cult of Mac. And it dates back to about 2013, I think. And as soon as I read it, I went, duh, why didn't I think of that? So let's see if you do it the same way he does. How do you set up the timer so that it stops playing? Okay, so we got the iPad.
Can you see at the bottom?
Okay.
There's an app there called Yoku Clock.
Okay. All right.
It's not an iPad app. It's one I obtained.
Oh, okay.
But with that app, let me turn it on. Then I'll show it to you again.
Okay.
At the bottom, it has a sleep and a wake up button.
Okay, so you're doing it, and I knew there were some third-party apps that did this.
So with that app, I've been using it ever since for years. But
and what's the name of it, Dave?
Let me see. Get the spelling right.
Okay.
It's I'm sure there are other ones, but
sure.
This particular one is called Yocto, Yoctuo Clock.
Okay.
Yocto Clock.
Yocto Clock. Okay. That's actually.
And this works. I've used it now since I've had this iPad Air. I probably used it on the iPad too, although I can't remember now.
Right.
It's been since December when I got this new iPad. But what I do is I just, number one, I start the music that I want to listen to and have that Bluetooth to my little portable speakers in the hotel room. Then I'll start this clock app, and I'll set the timer to go off for 2 hours. And then I'll set the wake-up call to whatever. You can have multiple options for the wake-up call. So I'll set it to 7:30, 8 o'clock, whenever we want to get up for that day. And it's been working great. It goes off, and then the next day I have a very irritating rooster wake me up. My wife hates it. She starts yelling, but they go, extremely irritating. But there
Okay.
are many different sounds you can wake up to. But a rooster has to be the worst. So,
Yeah.
but that
The one
that
that, uh-huh.
I'm sure there are a lot of other ones, but that one's been working for me okay.
Well, this one I like because knowing myself, I probably would forget to download the app, while I was traveling. Rob Lefevre came up with a different way to do this. It uses the clock and timer app that comes, standard with OS, with basically every version of
Yeah,
iOS.
I haven't tried that. I use the
Okay.
timer all the time when I'm cooking outdoors.
Right. Well, what he has people do. I'm looking at the directions here again, and that option is still there. You open your clock app and go down to the timer function, which is in the lower right of the screen, and you set your timer just like you would, if you normally use a half an hour, 2 hours, whatever. And then when there's an option there, once you've set the timer, there's an option there once you set the time that says when the timer ends. And if you click right there, if you touch right there, when it says when the timer ends, and you have a choice of what sounds to play, but there's also a choice that says stop playing. And if you pick that stop playing option, then when the timer is done, the music or whatever it is you're playing stops. Now, for some reason, I haven't tested all of the different media players around out there. There are some that this works better with than others. So you kind of have to experiment a little bit to get it, to get it working.
Yeah, there's the app there.
Right.
That's a timer I use all the time, but I never even noticed the damn stop playing.
Me either.
It's right in the middle there, so I'm assuming I'll give it a try.
Yeah, it's I hadn't noticed that until I read the tip, and I went, I'm thinking, surely this is not still in there, right? Because
there's an alarm, so maybe this would work just as well as my other one.
Well, it looks like, and I haven't looked at all the features. It looks like yours might have. Well, here's one thing that's different, for example, that I can think of that's different. In your app, you have the music timer and then the alarm, the wake up alarm, basically contained in one app.
Yeah.
Okay? With this setup, it's contained in one app, but you've got to do it in two steps, basically. First of all, you got to hope that you got a media player that plays nice with the clock time, because apparently some of them don't. But then you got to not only set the timer to tell it when to stop playing, but then you got to set the alarm for when you want it to wake you up, and so yours might be a little more convenient that way. I just thought that was a kind of interesting. I'm always looking for different ways to do things using the stuff that came with the with whatever device I'm using, and that when I read it, like I said, I had one of those Homer Simpson. Why didn't I think of that kind of moments?
Yeah. Well, this thing I have, it may be a free app. I can't remember, but if it's not free, I'm sure it's just a couple bucks. But,
yeah.
And I'm looking at it now, and it says a tip jar. So if I see a tip jar, that means it's free, and they want a donation.
Right. Donationware,
So, but I must say, I've used it for months and months, and it works. And it is two steps. You have to put your sleep thing on, and then your alarm thing. You can set up multiple timing alarms to wake you up. So
right.
You have to press whichever time you want in the morning. So
right.
It's pretty quick. I mean, it takes me 30 seconds pretty much to get my music going and to set the two alarms.
Right.
Yeah.
That's And like I say, that's not a function that I had thought a lot about, because as I've gotten older, generally by the time I go to bed at night, I'm out and nothing flat. I used to be awake for like 45 minutes or an hour. And here lately, well, last couple of years, it seems like by the time I go to bed at night, I'm out in like 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, as I've gotten older, it takes me a longer time to go to sleep. I mean, when I was young and working, I was the same way. I'd put my head on that pillow, and I don't even know if I lasted 5 or 10 minutes.
Right, exactly.
But now it takes longer, and I play music on the road when we're traveling.
Mm-hmm.
And with these little portable Bluetooth speakers, Susan gets irritated at the music at night. She'd rather have it quiet. But I can take this little Bluetooth thing and stick it next to me, and she won't hear it much.
Yeah.
And at home, I've got my music on my old iPod, and that's on a radio that kind of plays, and I can set that to go off.
Right. Yeah.
So I like to listen to music as I'm falling asleep.
And I tend to have some kind of noise going pretty much all the time. Either, I've got something on the stereo, or the TV's going in the background, or something like that. There's some kind of something going on. For some reason, my brain just doesn't do peace and quiet. I very rarely hit phases where I want all of the noise to stop,
Yeah, well, yeah, my wife's about the opposite. She kind of rather have it quiet, and I constantly have my stereo on.
There you go. There you go.
If I have my stereo on, I'll usually play chamber music when she's at home. If I want to listen to symphonies or something loud, I have to put my wireless headphones on.
Which ones are you using? These that I have them plugged in by wire right now because I haven't charged them, but they are also wireless.
Let me go get them and see.
Of course, the downside to these is that it's supposed to have a microphone, and I think the mic works if you're pairing with a phone. But when you're pairing with the computer, I haven't been able to get the mic to work successfully. Okay. That's a nice...
Can you see those?
Yeah, it looks like a nice set there, Dave.
They're Sennheisers.
Sennheiser, okay.
The famous brand. And they are wireless, and the unit's next to my stereo plugged into the headphone jack.
Okay.
And they broadcast. I used to have a set that broadcasted over 900 megahertz.
Right.
And it constantly was interfered with. It was horrible. I mean, if there was a damn ambulance or a cop car coming down the road.
Yeah, that 900 band is horrible for that.
So I was PO'd, and they were Sennheisers at 900 megahertz. So this set cost me about $200, and it's the 2.4 gigahertz band.
Okay, that should have made
the only interference I get in this chair I'm sitting is if Susan turns on the microwave, which is 5 feet away from me, then the music stops.
Yeah.
Other than that, these things are great. I really have very little interference, and they're very comfortable. And for $200, I think
that's not bad.
Price. Yeah, and so these are what I've been using.
I have and
they work very well at that 2.4 gig bandwidth.
These are, when I don't have them plugged in, this one is Bluetooth.
It's one I picked up from Cult of Mac, I think it was. At the time, I would sometimes have things going on 2 different computers at one time. I'd be using my Mac to do one thing and my Mac Pro, my old Mac Pro before it croaked, to do something else. And sometimes I just needed to check the audio on it to make sure. And I couldn't find a headset that let me, switch back and forth easily between the 2 of them. So I just picked up this set to use most of the time. And I have a Sony that's like you said, like your original Sennheiser, broadcasts in that 900 megahertz band.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're right. In my case, I'm far enough from the road and the microwave that the ambulance doesn't do it. But I can, if I go into other parts of the apartment, I don't get much better range on them than I do on Bluetooth. I can walk into the kitchen, but I'm right at the edge of the range,
Okay.
And they just, somebody's probably going to send me hate mail if they hear this comment, but I was not as impressed with this particular Sony headset as I have been with some of the other Sony things I've owned over the years.
Okay.
Sound-wise, it wasn't bad. For what I was using it for, it wasn't bad. It did that. One of the really frustrating things is that it's got one of these induction charging stands. And you better get it in the stand exactly right, or it wasn't going to charge.
Yeah, this has a plug-in charger.
Uh-huh.
It has built-in batteries, but it's just a simple plug-in charger.
Right.
Works okay.
Mm-hmm. And this one had a little stand that it sat on, and that's what charged the battery. Well, you had to get it in that stand in exactly the right way.
You mean like an electronic toothbrush?
Yeah, kind of, sort of. It's same
kind of cordless toothbrush.
Same basic idea. If you
that's the wave of the future.
Well, yeah, and I don't mind that, but this thing was really fiddly in terms of if you got the headset in the right place, and sometimes you had to look at the earpiece. They had a little mark on the earpiece on one side, and they had a mark on the charger. And what you're supposed to do is line those 2 up and put the thing in the charger. Well, then when I set it down, if I bumped it and got it out of alignment the least little bit, it wasn't charging. So, 20, 30 minutes later, an hour later, I go back over to use the headset, and it's still dead as a post,
Irritating.
Yeah. And I the other reason I shifted, the biggest reason was that headset did not have a microphone. And at the time I was doing some things that where a headset with a mic would have been a really good idea. And that's why I bought these, but I think the mic with this one works if you have the phone, like a phone paired with it, but doesn't work quite so well if you have the Mac. I've never been able to get the mic to work successfully with my with the computer.
Yeah, these are just for stereo sound.
Yeah.
The range is pretty good. If I go to one other room, I can still hear this well.
Mm-hmm.
But if I go to my bathroom back there to take a leak or so,
yeah, you lose it. Yeah.
So the range is like 2.4 gigahertz range. So
okay, that's not bad. I mean,
yeah, it's the same as a Wi-Fi range. So
yeah. And the one thing I've seen recently with that 2.4 gigahertz band, there's so many things that use that band now.
Oh yeah.
That's
everything.
Yeah.
It's free.
Yeah, exactly. So with there being that many things, sometimes they'll kind of conflict with each other, and you'll find that you know, your headset or whatever will get bumped off because, like you said, well, the microwave kicks in, and the microwave is, you know, 2.4, and you know,
and I lose sound. Yeah.
yeah. Now I did myself a little bit of confusion. This will be a good little tip for people who are thinking about the Apple TV. I've had one for about a year, but up until now they've been in different rooms. The computer's been in one room, and the Apple TV's been in the other. Well, if you use the remote that comes with the Apple TV, it's an infrared remote. Okay.
Yeah.
And what most people
I hate those. I've hated those from the start.
And see, here's what a lot of people,
line of sight.
I know. And see, here's the thing that people don't realize. I had completely forgotten about this. Apple, I don't know if the Apple, I haven't looked at the current Apple models to see if they still have it. But a few years ago, like 08, 09, in that time frame, a lot of Apple's computers, particularly the laptops, came with an infrared receiver built in, okay, and a little remote, because they were in that whole rip, mix, burn, you know, put your music on your computer and use the remote to control it.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's great, except it created one little problem. The Apple TV is an infrared remote, infrared-based remote, and that little remote that came with the computer is an infrared remote. Now, when they were in different rooms, the remote that I took the Apple TV remote and just programmed the commands into a different little cheapo, you know, programmable remote that I got at the local big box store. But that was never an issue because my computer was in another room. So the other day, now the computer and the Apple TV are only a few feet apart, right? I've got the stereo on, I've got my computer in the background here, and I go to play something on Apple TV, and it starts playing, and I had AirPlay turned on my Mac.
Okay.
And I hit the button to start playing the Apple TV content that I was playing. And it played about 4 or 5 seconds and then stopped. And the iTunes thing that was first in my list of music starts playing, which is one of Aaron Neville's Christmas albums.
Okay.
It's June. It's 1,000,000 degrees outside. I'm not thinking about Christmas. And for a while, I couldn't figure out what was going on. And every time I'd hit a button, it would start playing, and Apple TV would play fine, and then iTunes would kick in, and that would bounce the whatever was on Apple TV off, and I'd hear whatever was in iTunes. I finally figured it out. The remote was sending the same signal to both devices. Okay? Now,
Yeah.
because they're in different places, they're playing different things. That command, that play command, was going to play whatever was up on my iTunes library, and the Apple TV was playing whatever was up on there, and they get confused. So the only solution I have found so far is I go into the computer, because I don't use a remote with my computer, really. I go into the computer, and you can, under Yosemite, you can go into the security and privacy settings. I think it's in the general tab, and click on advanced, and one of your options is to turn off that infrared receiver.
Okay.
And from what I've read online, the only complaint that people had is under Snow Leopard, people who had that problem ran into an interesting hang-up. If they had their computer in 64-bit mode, if it was old enough where you could choose 32 or 64-bit, if you were in 64-bit mode, that setting wouldn't stick, and the remote would just keep, going and going and going.
Yeah.
I've got both of them in a drawer, just because I'm using either a little cheap programmable remote for right now, but I'm also using, like I say, I'm using that Blue Moon. Playing around with that, and I actually there's some things I really like about it, and I'll probably sit down tonight or tomorrow and start working on a review for it because it's an interesting idea, and there are several of these things out. This is actually the second of these types of devices that I've tried. So, you know. So I really confused. You talk about getting a little confused there, Dave. I was muttering in you know, bizarre languages there for a little bit.
Babble talk, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Fortunately, it was all kid friendly, you know, but. But that was about it for all the tips I had for tonight. Hopefully, I'll come up with other. And by the way, as I'm sure you saw in the PM that I sent you, I saw your little message, and I'm going to try to look at that and see if I can figure out what's.
Oh, that, yeah. I was just curious. I'm anxious to get another blue balloon.
Yeah, I'm not entirely.
I just took a look today, and I said, why do I have gray and blue ones on some of the reputation things? And then I also know that sometimes my count goes up with the new reputation. Sometimes it doesn't. So, you know, I was just curious. I don't care that much, but
I used
to the point that I probably deserve another balloon.
Now, just to be sure, are you talking about the little dots that appear under your signature?
No. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, the ones on the left are dark blue, and on the right they turn bright, a lighter.
Right.
And
someone asked a question about that in the forum the other day. About that, and I was not quite sure exactly what determines when you get the little blue dot, you know, and when they go up. I do know that if you scroll over the little blue dot, what it says periodically changes.
I've posted on that.
Yeah, right, and that's how I figured that out.
Yeah.
But I'll see if I can find out.
No, I'm just curious. You know, when you go to your user CP,
right,
they will have your reputation posted.
Right.
And it will have which threads you posted to.
Right.
And then on the left of each of those threads that you've gotten.
Oh, okay. I see.
There's a dot there, and it's either light blue or it's gray.
Okay.
And I'm not sure why. And it doesn't alternate like blue, gray. Sometimes there are 2, sometimes there are 3. So
okay.
I don't understand why the dots are different in color. And then I know that sometimes when I get a new dot, the number goes up or it may not go up. So
yeah,
I'm just curious how that's. I'm assuming that all of that relates to your balloons that you get on your.
I think that whole points and reputation system is some sort of Canadian voodoo. You know, from a couple of our Canadian friends might have.
Maybe that's the question I'm asking.
You know,
I just streamed a movie the other night from Amazon that was highly it's called the Babadook, I think.
Oh, okay.
It's a recent horror movie that was made last year, and it was on my to-watch list because it got good reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. And but there was a lot of exorcism in that thing with takeover of bodies and all.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
But those kind of movies.
I've been watching a lot of the all this month. TCM is doing their film noir Things.
I
And-
love those movies.
And I've been watching those.
I love those. I have dozens of those movies, and I've been buying a lot of Blu-ray replacements because, as you know, those movies are in exquisite black and white, and the shadowing and all of that is so important.
Okay,
music and the sound.
I have a question. I have a question for you then, because my wife is a big fan of TCM and of movies of that era, you know, that vintage.
Yeah.
And we've been debating, we have a number of them on regular DVD.
Okay.
And we've been debating whether to swap some of those out for Blu-ray. How much of a difference can you tell? I know on some of the modern ones you can really tell, but on like movies of that era, how noticeable is it?
Well, I'd have to go get my list to even give you, but one of the most famous ones you probably have seen, Double Indemnity with Barbara Stanwyck.
Right.
And I've just gotten a few with Orson Welles, The Third Man. And there is a fantastic difference, if it's done well, between the DVD and the Blu-rays.
Okay.
Especially if it's done by a company like Criterion.
That's done a lot of remastery and that kind of
stuff. It's all, they have to remaster both the video, take out all the scratches and smudges and things like that, and also update the audio.
Right.
If that's done well, there's a fabulous difference. It's worth taking 2 or 3 that you really love and going ahead and getting the Blu-ray and watch. You've got a high definition Blu-ray TV, I assume, that does high definition.
We would like to step up a little bit.
Because Blu-ray's worthless unless you've got the high definition TV to really appreciate it.
We didn't go to 1080. We had just got a TV when the 1080s started coming out.
Okay.
I'm thinking that if my wallet or Santa Claus or whatever is good to me this year, I'm really liking what I'm seeing about some of the 4K TV sets. You know, some of those obviously are better than others, and so I don't know. I might do that sometime soon. I think it's going to take something like that to make. Now, I will say, even with our regular set, which is 720p, I was watching something on TCM a while back that had been remastered. And it just so happened it was something that I had seen, you know, some time ago before the remastering. And I could tell the difference on that. It was one of the movies from the silent era. And I had seen it a couple of years ago. I'm not normally a big silent movie fan, but I started watching it one night, got sucked into it. And then here recently, they aired it again. And this time, I think they aired a print that had been remastered, you know, and whoever did that work did a really good job. With, you know, in terms of, like you said, taking out as much of the scratches as you can. There is a point at which you can go too far. You know. You
have to be careful.
You know,
because the Blu-ray, especially, you know, you can look at it. 70/80 is okay because a DVD is only 480.
Right.
So if you double that to go into the 700s.
Yeah, you're pretty good.
Advantage. My TV is 1080, and at my age, I'm not sure I'm going to replace that. And I'm certainly not going to buy any higher definition videos. I mean, Blu-ray is fine with me, but yeah, the thing with the Blu-ray is that the resolution is so great that you're seeing the grains of the actual film.
Right.
And
right.
And they always talk about graininess. Like if you get, I've got King Kong from the 30s.
Right.
It's very grainy, but you're actually seeing the actual damn grains that were on the original
film. Yeah.
If they try to take out the grain, then they remove data.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So you actually want graininess if it's there.
Right.
And a lot of these Blu-rays will have some graininess that you have to just accept as the fact they haven't taken that out with noise reduction and all of that. So
we have there's been some discussion on the forum over the years in a couple of threads about how much resolution, both in terms of monitors and in terms of, say, photographs and the like.
Yeah.
How much resolution is too much, or at what point, in psychology, they have this concept called just noticeable difference. If I make this much of a tweak, you notice it. If it's smaller than that, you don't notice. And one of the things I think for some people we've already hit is that for them, bumping up to a different resolution doesn't help or doesn't add anything. Let's put it that way. And the thing, and I'll give you a good example. Our cable provider still does, on a lot of the channels, you have the standard definition channel and the HD variant of the same channel.
Yeah.
And I as a general rule, if I have a choice, I will pick the HD channel. My brain says I'm paying for it, I'm going to use it. My wife, on the other hand, will frequently watch the standard definition channel because to her, on a lot of those programs, the detail difference is either A, not that noticeable, or B, not something that's that important. And I have to say, I was flipping through one day watching Swamp People. The last year, I haven't watched this season, but I'm flipping through watching Swamp People one day. Well, these guys are shooting at alligators. Whether you see it in standard def or high def, I don't think you're gonna, it's not gonna make a huge amount of difference, Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's worth there's a website. I don't know if you've been on it, but it's called blu-ray.com.
Okay.
And blu-ray.com with a hyphen in it.
Uh-huh.
And they have excellent reviews of the Blu-ray movies.
Okay.
So what I would suggest is pick a few that you guys really like.
And try them.
Go to blu-ray.com and make sure that the audio and visual ratings are at least 4 out of 5.
Right. And
try to obtain 1 or 2 of those films. And I think you will be surprised at the difference.
And that's kind of what we had thought to do. Because I remember going, I wasn't aware of that site. Well, it sounds familiar. I think I had it at one time. I've got so much junk.
I may have quoted it in a post. I don't know.
It sounds familiar. I had so much junk in my bookmark folder right now that, going back years.
Yeah.
And every so often I tell myself, I'm going to go through these bookmarks. I'm going to take out the ones that are dead or irrelevant or whatever. And I'll get one of these utilities and do it. And it'll maybe kill 50 or 100 bookmarks that are dead. And before I know it, I've added 40 or 50 new ones, And I'm like, oh, come on. You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
But we had actually thought of buying a couple of them. I hadn't thought about looking for a site like that. This sounds to me like, and of course our younger members won't remember this, but this sounds to me a little bit like what we went through in the early days of CDs. You know, in the early days of CDs, a lot of times when you bought a CD, on the back of the CD, it had a lot of them, particularly the older stuff that you and I listened to, had AAD. Okay?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And the A was that the initial master, the recording, was analog.
Uh-huh.
That intermediate step was analog. And it was digital in just the very last stage, where they took one of those intermediate tapes and transferred it over to digital and burned it to CD.
For the conversion, yeah.
Right. And then there were some that were, you know, all that really did is tell you what phase in the process that recording went digital. Some of them went digital in that intermediate step. And then, of course, as CD became more popular, then some of the new recordings would be digital all the way through.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
DDD. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I know that, but and so I don't know if you guys like old musicals or things, but two of the Blu-rays in color that I think just blew me away off my chair were Singing in the Rain with Gene Kelly.
Okay.
And Debbie Reynolds.
Right.
I don't know if you guys like that kind of film or not.
She does. I kind of depend, you know.
But the color restoration of that, and more importantly, since the songs were great, the
audio restoration.
Those are both 4+ restorations, and it's a remarkable revelation to watch the old DVD in that one. And the other one that blew me away, because I went through VHS tapes, I taped it off the Ted Turner station, I bought a DVD, was The African Queen with Humphrey Bogart.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
When I got the Blu-ray, the color restoration was like taking cobwebs off your eyes. And the audio was just superb.
I haven't seen the Blu-ray restoration. I have seen it when they made the shift from video to DVD.
No,
and even
the Blu-ray of those two movies are really, The Sound of Music is another one where the Blu-ray sound is superb. But
now we have the standard definition of that one, of both of those. I think both of those two movies.
Those three I mentioned, the Blu-ray will blow you away, especially with the sound.
Yeah.
On the musicals.
And that's what I spent the day working on today, basically, is I almost forgot about promising to do the show tonight, because I had been monkeying around with my stereo. We moved some things around, and I reconnected a wire that had come loose, and somewhere along the way, we realized a couple weeks ago that my subwoofer wasn't behaving the way it should have. And so I've been kind of reconnecting that and tweaking that and trying to get it to behave itself. And so if you hear a scream in a few minutes as we shut this down, if you hear a scream, you'll know that I didn't quite get it as pinned down as I, you know.
God, I'm still using stereo speakers that I bought in the late 70s. They were falling apart about 6 or 8 years ago, and I sent them to Greensboro and had them rebuilt. They had to redo those rings around the paper thing.
Okay,
but the damn things are from like 79, and they still sound great.
Well, we had, I gotta tell you, we had a set of Kenwood speakers that belonged to my wife with the stereo she had in high school. So we're talking, you know, late 70s, early 80s, same vintage stuff. And we kicked those speakers around for years and years and years. And finally, they did the same thing. The paper literally started to disintegrate. And it was going to cost me more to fix them than I could swing at the time. So we got rid of them. And when I started looking for speakers, I looked at, and I won't mention the name of the speaker because they'll probably send me hate mail for that one too, a brand that should have been good.
Bose, I think.
Well, that was one of them. Let's put it that way. Okay, let's just put it that way, Dave. That was one of the two that
I knew it.
Okay, and the reason I looked at them is their older stuff had been really good, and I liked it. So I go and I listen to the Bose setup, and it was their early days of surround sound, you know. And I thought, well, if I'm going to get new speakers, I might as well get the surround setup. This whole setup was like $1,200. It cost more than the stereo that I had, and it didn't. Did it sound good? Yes. Did it sound $1,200 good? No. So I moved on to something else. Once again, name I won't mention. And those speakers did not sound as good as the Kenwoods. And what I was really disappointed by is the Kenwoods were rather wide and were only about 3 feet tall. And at the time we had a cat, okay? And the cat's fun thing to do was to get a running start, jump, and land on top of the speaker because it was right by the window. And we were in the store looking at speakers, and this one speaker, I noticed two things about it immediately. One is that it was narrower and taller, and I turned it on and it didn't sound as good as I liked. And then the second thing I noticed about it, if you put your hand on it and just barely pushed, it did like it was going to topple over. And it just had no heft to it at all, which means that you lost all the low end. You know, unless you have a subwoofer, which I didn't at the time, if you're going to have good low end response, those speakers have to have some kind of heft to them. The cabinet itself, you know, and the speaker has to have some kind of heft because that's what's producing a lot of the sound. And I just immediately said, no, sorry, we can do better than this. And what I've got now is a set that, not very expensive, but my brain is itching to maybe upgrade to a better speaker. I don't know when I'm going to do that. You know, Santa Claus has bypassed me the last couple of Christmases, so you know. I guess I got to be a better human being there, Dave, because he's just gone right past me there. You know, maybe the lack of a chimney has something to do with that.
Well, I have a chimney, but I have it plugged at the top, so.
That might make things a little difficult.
Yeah, you'd have to unscrew the cap on the chimney. Yeah. My God, it's 9:30.
Yeah, we really. I noticed that.
Yeah.
I guess I better let you go here, Dave.
Yeah, actually, I got 4 new Blu-rays today, so tonight I'm going to watch a couple.
All right, what'd you get?
Well, the one I'm really looking forward to in terms of whether it's done well is 42nd Street.
Okay.
Which is from the early 1930s with Ruby Keeler.
Right, excellent movie.
Oh, it's one of the best early musicals ever made, and I have it on DVD, so I'm very anxious. That's the first one I'm going to put on. The other ones I've got The American President with Michael Douglas, and I don't know if you've seen that, but Susan and I love that movie.
I'm sure I have. I don't remember it at the moment.
He's the president. Annette Bening is in it as his girlfriend.
Okay.
And he's a widower with a daughter, and he's the president.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
It's kind of a comedy.
Yeah. Okay. I knew I'd seen that before.
But her and I love that movie. The Blu-ray reviews were kind of iffy, so I'm not expecting a big change in that.
That's a good example of a kind of movie where restoration to Blu-ray might or might not make a big difference.
Yeah. On Blu-ray.com, it got 3.5 in both the visual and the audio. So,
well, I'm thinking about what I remember.
42nd Street got 4+ reviews. So
I'm thinking about what I remember of American President, and the audio is not really complicated.
No,
which is one area where Blu-ray is going to make a difference. And when you look at the video, the visual of it, it doesn't have the same level of detail, costuming wise, that some of those musicals that you're talking about had. You know, another thing that I watched recently that you can tell a difference in high definition. That series that AMC did, Turn, which is set in the American Revolution. Okay. And I was watching, it's basically a fairly accurate recreation of the American Revolution and the events leading up to and including the Revolutionary War. And just to give you an idea of the level of detail that they went through, Dave, to reproduce this, they not only went through a lot of trouble to make the uniforms, when they shot this, to make the uniforms look accurate, but all the top stitching that you can see on the uniforms was done by hand, so that it would have that uneven look that hand stitching of that era would have had. And you can kind of tell when you look at it on a decent set that, you know, there's that kind of detail and historical accuracy in it. And it actually turned out to be an interesting series. Well, I better let you go, Dave, or we'll be here till midnight, and we'll both be in the soup.
You back?
Yeah, did I lose you there for a second?
I think my Time Warner went out for a second. I just checked airport utility. It was out, and then it popped back on.
Oh, okay. I've had that.
Time Warner is a pain in the ass. I really hate them, and about every other day it goes out, and I have to reboot my modem.
You know what's really funny is if you go on to some of these sites that are devoted to cable TV and you know, that kind of thing, no matter what cable provider you have, you can find somebody who hates them. I mean, no matter how much you love them.
Of course.
Same thing with the cell providers. You know, if you're on Sprint and you go on to another website, you'll see, no matter which provider you have, when you go to some of these sites that are devoted to like cell and cable, everybody's hated by somebody. It's the weirdest industry I've ever seen.
No, it's like going on Yelp or TripAdvisor for restaurants. You'll go there. God, I love this restaurant. And then you go there and there'll be 10 terrible reviews, and you read them and say, that would never happen.
I was looking for something the other day on Amazon, trying to find some information about something. I forget what it was. And I read some of the customer reviews, okay? Same device. One person gave it 5 stars, one person gave it 1 star.
I know.
And I'm like, are you looking at the same? Are you two people
I
looking
agree.
at the same thing? And one lady wrote a review and had given something 3 or 4 stars, but she hadn't opened the box yet. The review was solely based on the fact that the delivery came in one piece, and she hadn't fired this thing up yet to know if it really worked well or not. I'm like, oh, come on.
It's like movies on Amazon. I'll go and see one of my favorite movies, and it gets like almost all 4 or 5 stars, and then there's some 1 stars.
Right.
Who the hell could rate this 1 star? And you go to it, and say, well, I never got it in the mail. Well,
yeah, why did you bother to?
It came and never played. I said, Jesus.
Well,
you haven't even looked at the movie.
And you know, I have reached the point with movies where I don't pay attention to reviews unless somebody that I know tells me, you know, you got to see this is a real good movie.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what's happened to me in the last number of years. Several times I have seen a trailer for a movie, you know, when it's in the theater, and thought, oh, I'm not going to like that. That sounds like it's going to be a horrible movie. Didn't go see it in the theater. And later, you know, I pick it up on the cheap then, at, you know, in DVD or watch it on Showtime or something, and find that it's a really good movie. You know, it's just that the trailer didn't give you a very accurate idea of what the movie was like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the ones that I actually like, I know some critics didn't, but it's a movie that happened to me with, is the original Highlander, which I did not think I was going to like based on the reviews. And the movie, I mean, the acting is not, we're not talking Oscar-worthy acting here, but the premise is just interesting, you know. Now, they took it too far. I think they did about 3 different sequels, and, you know, they probably should have stopped at the second one, you know.
I like with Sean Connery.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah, and that other guy, I can't remember his name, but, yeah, about living and coming back and all
right.
of that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
No, I like that movie. I like the same as you. I like the premise of it. Yeah.
Well, I better let you go, Dave, or we're going to be here all night.
Yeah, I need to watch my new Blu-rays here.
Yeah. Well, enjoy.
Okay.
And I hopefully we'll see you next week. I'll try to get back on the Sunday schedule here. I'm going to also try, I need to send a PM to 1 or 2 people, and maybe over the next couple of weeks while I still have a little summer break left, get 1 or 2 people who can't normally make it on Sunday and see if they can join me one day during the week.
Okay.
And if we can do that, I'll certainly post up in the thread, you know, in that thread about the Sunday chat.
Okay.
And that's what the first couple weeks I put the links to the show information in both places, right underneath the Google thing, and then also in the thread. What I did last week, and probably what I'll do from now on, is right underneath the show is going to be a link to the forum thread, rather than posting the same information twice in 2 different places, you know, in 2 different places. But and then when the new one comes up, or we got it scheduled, I'll be sure to put it in the forum thread or send you an email about it or something.
Okay.
All righty.
Sounds good.
Good to have you, Dave.
Well, have a good week.
Thanks.
Talk to you later.
You're all righty. All right, guys. That's going to do it for this week. We ran a little bit long there, but I was glad to have Dave with us tonight. Quite an interesting discussion. And as I mentioned him, I'll put the show notes up shortly in the forum. It might be tomorrow morning before I get those posted, but they should be up soon. And keep an eye out for more tips and tricks. We'll see you next week. And until then, I'm Sly Dude on the forum. I've been your host for this week's Mac Forum Video Chat. We'll see you next Sunday.